Now you may proceed.
Thank you. Okay, we'll start with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so the minutes, did everybody review the minutes?
Yes.
Anybody have anything to add or change? Or?
Not I.
No?
Will we accept the minutes?
No, I didn't see any errors.
Okay, we have a motion to accept. Anybody want a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We had one piece of correspondence, a letter from Mr. Gailey, which I forwarded to all the members. Everybody had a chance to review that.
Mhm.
Okay. Anybody have any questions about that? Or,
Well, not so much his letter as to more when we go back to clarify points,
okay,
you know, of points that he made. I just want to clarify them.
well, there's a couple of things that I have to address to that. Too.
Okay.
All right. Well, we might as well lead into that now. This is on the old business, the Eagles Nest subdivision, 437 Hankins Road, 23-1, 22.5 on the section block. So concerning that letter from Mr. Gailey, he made a point as to how many variances were being asked that wasn't asked in the initial application. I know right from the very first meeting, when we changed, had asked Mr. Wiggers to change the original plan. Okay, I know it was understood right from the get-go that he was only looking for 2 variances. The initial application only was stating 1. Okay, so just as a matter of precision, let's say, we'll amend that application to reflect 2 variances, one for road frontage and one for lot width. I'll make a motion to do that. Anybody want a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay, motion carries. So that application's amended. Last thing concerning that letter is Mr. Gailey made an assertion that I did not forward some requested information to the DEC. The DEC, when I contacted them, I sent them everything that I had. There was nothing else to send other than what was in front of us. I even sent them the second revised site plan. All right. So it's my assumption that the DEC person, I think it was Ms. Mazzy, that was corresponding with. She was, and I outlined that this was just a 2-lot subdivision. All right, so she was probably looking for more information concerning a potential build, and that's not actually for us right now, or in the works. So that's why I never sent them anything more, because there was nothing more sent. So that's what that was about. Okay.
They can still weigh in if there's a building proposal presented.
Well, I think if this goes the route of an approval, I think what would be prudent is to condition it to where all DEC recommendations and are followed in any potential builds, whether it be with Mr. Wiggers or any
future owner.
Future owner, correct.
of The parcel.
right concerning the bald eagles and rattlesnakes. So that would be a condition that I would ask for, if we were to find the food for this, and if anybody else has anything more to add to that, feel free.
No, that makes sense. If it does go for approval, then that it should be conditioned. Rattlesnakes and then bald eagles will be.
Whatever guidelines or recommendations the DEC has, that's adhered to.
Well, I get, okay.
Now, Rich, you missed the last meeting. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll just go back to Pat. Pat, do you have anything else on that letter that you wanted to talk about?
No, he talks in one of the factors about the 15% grade. Slopes of 15% or less. Now, according to the map that I looked at, that was provided by the
Mr. Wiggers, surveyor.
the surveyor. There, and the way he has it here on this topographical section, that I'm assuming that it doesn't go beyond that 15%, but I couldn't find where he actually made that point absolutely clear.
Well, at that point, though, doesn't refer so much to a subdivision, because we don't know what's going to happen with that piece of land. We're just here to balance benefits to the community and the Wiggers based on subdividing that piece of land. It's hypothetical. There might be a house built there. There might not be. If there's no house built there, the 15% grade is a moot point. That is something that if indeed we approve the subdivision, and if indeed the planning board approves the subdivision, then if the building permit is applied for, that is something that the code enforcement officer is empowered to determine if the 15% grade where the building site is or not. That should not have anything to do with subdivision or with our ruling tonight.
Okay.
And even if it was greater than 15%, it's still allowable by special.
Right. Okay.
So the planning board would still have to sign off on it, here we go.
Okay. That clarifies it. Thank you. He says it's greater than 20%. And nearly a 20% variance.
How did we come to that conclusion?
I don't think he's thinking about the right spot.
I
I don't know what's in the record unless he's interpolating that off of that little itty bitty, cut and paste portion of the USGS map that's up in the upper corner of the subdivision map, and I don't know how you could do that. It's so darn small, but.
Well, but if you take the number of feet that were taken off the road front and then whatever number of feet off from the front of the parcel to the back,
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know how you come up with 20% either, but
Well, it's 17% difference at the road frontage, and it will become greater because the lot narrows. back to where the 50-foot line.
No,
is.
you're talking about. the
No, we're talking
slope.
about slope.
Slope.
though.
Oh, slope.
We're
So,
talking about slope.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the percentage of.
Well, no,
This is about percentage.
this was, he,
Are you talking about percentage
Yeah, you
he
switch,
said the requested variance is nearly a 20%
Okay,
variance.
that's
Right,
after that.
right, yeah.
Well, what was the question about slope?
In the zoning law, it has to be 15% or less slope.
And, yeah, and,
So that's not accurate.
but he's saying it's exceeding 15%, right? In his letter. And my only question is, how did he come to that conclusion? Because I don't see where we have the data
Yeah.
in front of us to reach that conclusion
Yeah.
one way or the other.
Yeah, I
Say
don't-
that, or did he just letting us know that that's going to be,
in addition, the proposed house location is on a ridge. The use table in the zoning code states that dwellings are permitted only on slopes of 15% or less.
Which is.
And it says that since the proposed subdivision map does not show topographic contours, the board does not have the required evidence to determine compliance or non-compliance with this zoning code requirement. So he mentions
Well,
percentages in two
I
different
don't
places.
know that that's an issue for you guys. That might be an
Doesn't
issue
seem
for the
like-
planning board. If-
True.
If and when it gets to the planning board for the full blown subdivision.
but that was talked about at the public hearing. And the revised site plan has a driveway of an incline of 5%. It says right here on the site plan. So where Gailey's talking about it being on a ridge, maybe the back part of it goes up onto the ridge.
If, like I said, if this is fairly accurate, at the back side of the piece of property,
Steep.
it shows much closer.
Right,
It's like, there's the site
Right.
and see right in here,
right.
those
But
lines.
that's not even within, that's past the site.
Right,
That's
exactly,
beyond the site.
right.
Within the site, I mean,
It
it's very small. The topo lines are very far apart within.
Right.
Right.
the
Within this,
site.
within
So
this one,
I don't know, I just don't think there's anything in the record to conclude that it is
right,
greater, you know, as much as 20% or greater than 15 for that matter.
And even if it is, that is not an issue for us. to
I
be-
think that's.
And that's, if a building was ever to be built there, and we don't know that it is.
Right.
And if, then the code enforcement officer would determine if that slope is greater than 15%. And if it is, then the applicant would have to go before the planning board for a special use permit.
Correct.
mhm,
So I really don't think that's an issue that concerns our deliberations tonight at all.
okay,
And
just,
the other issue with the 20%, I think what Mr. Gailey's doing there is rounding up. Because we did the math last time and it was 17%. And that was for the lot width. That percentage, because I only took the greater of the two, so the road frontage percentage is actually lower. Because the lot, the requested variance on the road frontage is 33.29 feet. And on the lot width, it's 52.53 feet. That's the requested variance.
So I just checked in the scenic river district. Single and two family dwelling units on slopes of 15%
or less,
or less
right,
are principal permitted uses. And on slopes greater than 15%, they are special use.
right,
So that's not an issue for us to be concerned about.
Correct.
okay.
Anything else on that? Steve?
No.
Now, Rich, you weren't at the last meeting. Are you caught up on this?
I think I'm pretty much up to speed.
Right. So I don't think, oh, Mr. Wiggers, you had something to say, you raised your hand before.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
You had something to say, you raised your hand
Yeah,
before.
I believe that the surveyor If I could approach the map. I think they pertain to the. This is a new map.
Yeah, that's nothing.
Pertaining to the driveway. We have it marked here. So. Yeah, the driveway is 5%. That's what they're concerned with. And the flood elevation is here, on this map here. And this, at this point, is 7 feet above. This is floodplain down here,
Right,
and the driveway going up was 5% slope to the driveway that could be painted in, because a lot of these houses down here have steep driveways. I mean, really up the, I'm not really up on the ridge. This is relatively flat land in here. The ridge comes a little bit over this way.
Well, the surveyor's saying that's about a 5% grade from the road to the house, but the house is natural house. location.
So you didn't see that one?
I didn't see this, but I just got, this is the public one. The legal map. Probably where the 660 feet and then. Somewhere in that street. Yeah.
But as the DEC indicated, even if it was within the 660 feet buffer zone, there, you could still build if there's just, there's windows that you have to adhere to.
yeah,
Oh,
there's
not
a
doing
list
the
of
grading.
rules to
Right.
follow.
Right.
And they didn't, other than she, in her response to you, she said the possibility of rattlesnake dens
Well-
exists, but
well,
they don't have.
There
any
was one
that
within a
would-
mile and a half,
Right,
but I guess because of the way they travel, I guess that's within range of this property. So I guess before there's any building that has to be done, they gotta do some sort of assessment. So that's why I suggested, like, if this was to be approved, we condition it to where,
the DEC has to be involved.
right,
See if we can see it.
so does anybody have anything else to add or get clarified?
Not from the letter. From Mr. Haley, no.
Or how about just everything in general?
Well, I think that, since Rich was not here last month, we should review the balancing tests.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't see the public hearing.
all right, so the balancing test is the first one is whether the benefit can be achieved by other means feasible to the applicant. In this case, it's been determined that it's not, because other property is not available for him to purchase to make this wire. So that's, not an option for him. Undesirable change to neighborhood character or detriment to nearby property. All right, there was a lot of discussion at the last meeting. And
And at the public hearing,
at the public hearing.
there were many
Right.
people spoke in favor of the request being denied, that it would change the makeup and flavor of the area.
Right.
Now, that was quite
It was,
a persuasive group of people they all spoke passionately about their finding their way to that road to live on. A lot of it was through family. And they have all noticed differences and changes in the road, the amount of traffic, et cetera, because of the number of homes being rented out as short-term rentals. But all, and they all spoke, I don't think there was not one of the 28 people that spoke that was in favor of, they were not in favor of the granting variance. They all spoke of their concerns that granting the variance would cause an undesirable change to the neighborhood. I posed the question of the undesirable change being and I did not use these words at that time, but it's an affront to the zoning law. There has been no piece of property on that road that has been subdivided without being in accordance with the zoning law that was in place. And that, to me, that's an essential change in the character of the neighborhood.
You understand that if you're gonna make that the measuring stick, and I don't think legally your analysis is correct, you might as well close down. You're never gonna grant a variance, an area
Correct.
variance, ever. Because every area variance is in the front for the zoning, otherwise they wouldn't be here for the variance.
Well,
So
some
what's-
area variances are for putting structures on lots where that are already existing. And this is creating a brand new lot.
So like we discussed, before, and I said this at the last meeting, Steve, is that using that logic, you would never be a variance. All right, and I know what you're saying, as far as, this is a different situation because it has to do with a building lot. But, as the applicant has demonstrated, most of those lots are substandard in non-conforming in that whole area. And like I had said before, it's irrelevant how it got that way. That's the makeup of the neighborhood, all right? Actually, by allowing this subdivision, it actually blends in with the neighborhood because that's the way those lots are there. It's irrelevant how they got that way, whether it was from prior zoning or whatever, that's irrelevant. That's the way it is. So if you were saying, if you had a situation where all the other lots were larger, okay, then you would have a situation where, yeah, this doesn't fit in because all the other lots are 10, 15, 20 acres. Okay, and that's not the case here. That's why this is not going against the character of the neighborhood, because the character of the neighborhood is non-conforming lots. That's just the fact. That's just the way it is. And it's irrelevant how it got that way.
Neil, did you ever get the letter from Ken Bailey, is that?
Yes.
Okay, just because that speaks
Yeah,
about
they
that.
had it last month.
Okay.
Right, and he brought, and that's a good point, that, Ken Bingham in that letter that I believe everybody has, they considered that, they looked at that, and they brought that out in the letter saying that, the lots in that area are non-conforming, and, that's, the makeup of the area, the neighborhood, so by making this subdivision is not going to upset that character, because that is the character of that area.
So substandard lots as by the new rules.
Right, by the new rules.
The old lots would not conform.
Right.
So we'd be in charge of.
They're buildable, they're still buildable because they predate the new zoning or the current zoning. All right, but how they got that way is irrelevant right now, all right? Because that's the way the makeup of the area. Like I said, if all of those lots were larger lots, then there would be an argument here, but that's not the case here, you know?
Yeah, I don't really see it. No problem.
Anybody?
The lot is, it's still.
And the lot is still 5 acres plus,
it's
right?
Still 5 acres. Actually, the width is greater than some of the other non-conforming lots there.
Right.
Yes, Mr. Leader?
I also want to mention that there is a building on that lot right now.
Right.
That building has been there for 50 years. And I'm going to be building within about 20 feet of that. And after I finish building, I'll knock that building down. But the building has been there.
But that's irrelevant
Yeah.
Yeah.
right now.
I mean, but you know what I'm saying, it's really not changing the character that much, being that there is an existing building there, which is going to be.
It's not a non-conforming. use. He's not right, because his argument in the letter was that it's a residential structure. Residential structures are conforming uses in that zoning. To say it's a non-conforming use is a non-starter. It's misleading to make that argument. The lot would be non-conforming in terms of two-dimensional.
Right.
But the fact that you could create, what's to say that, I mean, he sounds like he has a plan or something to do with the lot. Suppose the lot got created and somebody just decided to rehabilitate that cabin where it sits. The fact that cabin hasn't been occupied for a number of years doesn't make that, it's a residential structure in a zone where residential structures are principal permitted uses. To say that lost its protection, I mean, that's not a fair argument.
But we're not saying that.
Well, if we
argue.
don't subdivide it, yeah.
Whether you subdivide it or, even if you
Well,
subdivide.
because according to this plan, he has to remove it because of.
But that's a different story.
Right.
But I'm saying that, what's to say that it couldn't stay?
Right, correct.
Argue that you've lost the grandfather protection. It didn't require to be grandfathered, is what I'm saying. Because it's a
Principal permitted
it's
use.
a principal permitted use. It was before, it still will be. There's not, we're not granting it. It'll be, there's not an ask, and you're not considering a use.
Right. Right.
Right?
So the next one is whether the request is substantial. We did the math on that. I mean, there's no exact number what substantial would be. All right. So, but I would think that on the lot width requirement of 50, the variance would be 52.53 feet, which amounts to 17% of the required 300 feet. I don't think that's substantial. I mean, if we were getting up close to 30, 40%, maybe, that would be, something that I would consider substantial. You folks will have your own window as to what you might think that is, because, that's how you pretty much have to gauge it, because there is no set number.
Yeah, or we like it, because I'm not gonna jump in it on any of the, you guys make your factual determination, whether it is or isn't detrimental to the neighborhood. I'm not suggesting one way or the other in that, nor on this, but what I would suggest to you is that depending on the nature of the area variance sought and the nature of the property, in some instances, I don't think it's a numeric formulation, because something much less could be more substantial under certain circumstances, and something more could be less substantial. You got to look at the whole picture of what's in front of you to evaluate that. I don't think it's purely a formulaic calculation. Oh, it hit X%, so therefore it's substantial in and of itself. It may or may not be. I think you got to look at the whole picture and come up with your own
Right,
It is a balance, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think the fact that in one instance, you might grant a variance that's a 45% variance, and take out because, and determine because of all the facts and circumstances, it isn't substantial. By the same circumstance, you may deny an area variance where it's 15%, because in the context of that, it is. An example might be, there's a difference between maybe a lot width requirement and a lot area requirement. A 20% deviation or 25% deviation or 30% deviation in a lot area might be more significant than that percentage for a lot width requirement. You gotta look at the whole picture. Maybe not too. I mean, it depends on the
Right.
configuration of the lot, what's around it, all those things. You gotta look at the whole picture.
And like Pat pointed out, the lot area is not a question here, because it is 5 acres still. So we're just talking about width and other factors that could be factored into that. Whether the request will have adverse physical or environmental effects. I think we covered all of that in the secret. The effects that we found were minimal at best. Basically, mainly concerning bald eagles and rattlesnakes, so. And it's been addressed, correct, that's been answered, and as far as I see, it's been answered. So,
I believe it's pretty much it. Fine.
Did you guys, I think, we've been doing this one for so long. Was seeker ever completed?
Yeah.
We did the
Yeah.
part 2 and the part 3 and neg deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of already answered that question. Didn't you? It's like,
Yeah, it does.
okay, whether the alleged difficulty is self-created, which is relevant but not determinative. All right, and I think there's nobody who will disagree that there's no question that it's self-created. Mr. Wiggers does not have to subdivide it. He just wants to subdivide it. All right, so so
And the zoning standards were in effect when he acquired the lot.
correct, right,
These are not standards that came into
Right.
being after he acquired the lot.
right.
I think you're right.
So out of all the boxes, he checks that one as far as I can see. There's no question for that. And he won't deny that either. I don't think.
I'm hard of hearing, and I'm missing 3/4 of what you're saying.
I'm sorry. Well, what I said is that you would not disagree with me that you created this. This is self-created because you want to subdivide this. You don't have to subdivide it. Correct?
I don't have to sell it.
Right, but you want to.
I want to.
All right, so that's
That's my,
right. It's not a
I like
bad
to
thing.
do it,
It's not a
yeah.
bad thing, and that's just, the facts of the matter, so. All right? And that covers all the criteria. Does anybody have anything else to add or clarify to that?
Well, I would just think that, since there is no self-created hardship, it's a self-created hardship, there's no financial distress. And the fact that the applicant just wants to subdivide it really kind of puts more weight on the other factors about it being a deviation in the size of the road frontage in the neighborhood. I could see where, if the applicant needed to subdivide, where that could be a different issue. But the benefit of this all goes to the applicant. None of the benefit of the subdivision goes to the other residents on that road in terms of improving the neighborhood.
But it doesn't necessarily harm the neighborhood.
28 people, and they thought it would.
And that's opinion, and we did address, most of their concern. The only concern that we probably didn't address, which we really can't, is the SRO issue. And, that's something that needs to be done in the new zoning. All right, so, I can understand that being, problematic. All right. I don't know how many are operating on that road now, but, if that comes to be, the town has to address that in a separate manner. That should not affect what we're doing here. But as far as everything else that they brought up, other than probably just not liking it, we answered their concern.
Well, that's still my concern, so.
I don't see this as being detrimental to the neighborhood. I think it brings in, if anything, it's gonna be an improvement to the neighborhood, because it's gonna be a decent looking house instead of a shack.
True.
Well, I took a ride down there today. You almost missed the shack. Not hard to miss once you know it's there.
Because it's camouflaged.
It's pretty well camouflaged, which is too bad because it was probably a decent little cabin at one time.
Back in the day, yeah.
But, you know. Mr. Gailey's point about us saying that he had made a point about changes to the character. I have to go back and find exactly what he said, but it alludes to the fact when I made the comment last month that on the currently owned non-conforming lots that have the ability to have buildings put on them. And like I said last time, I don't know how many of those properties of the whole road consist of that. But if they were to be built on, that too would change the makeup. I'm not saying they're going to be built on. And yes, they would have to comply with current building codes. But it kind of goes along with, it would change the complexion of the area, and the current neighbors would really have no
recourse.
grounds, they would have no grounds to complain. Would they be unhappy? Absolutely. I'm not saying they won't be happy, that they'd be happy with, them somebody suddenly deciding they're gonna put, structures on these, at the moment, undeveloped pieces of parcel, but, they wouldn't even have the recourse to come here to us to, or the planning board or whoever, to complain that they are unhappy with it.
Right, and we're not, no one is arguing that on this board. That's, we all recognize that.
But my point is that there's, the potential would always be there. I don't think it'll happen. I think the people that own those parcels like it just the way it is now. They're not about to change it, but because, and for most of those parcels, they're not big enough to be divided.
That's
They wouldn't be, this is probably one of the few that could be, probably can be,
Right.
and still comply with what is now current size, mostly current size
Right.
requirements.
And what the real consideration is like going to what you're saying, Pat, is that so will one more building lot, more or less, affect everything else, even if everything else, I don't think it will, because you have all the other potential lots that could be built, who's to like, we don't know how many are still buildable
Right.
because of being vacant or not, but it's still something one more lot is gonna change that drastically? I don't think so.
I think the ZBA's job is to allow the city, to allow the town to grow, and that's part of our purview. We're looking at something that's not gonna, I don't think it's gonna make a huge impact. I think some people will be disappointed because nobody likes change,
I agree.
but I don't think that we can just say you can't just live in a bubble where nothing's ever gonna change.
And we're not. There's a lot of things changing. A lot of things will change in this town. And it all relates to the zoning of the town, allowing these things to change. A lot of this town has changed because there was no zoning about certain things. The short-term rental issue. And debatable as to whether or not that's been a good thing for the town.
I think that, I certainly think that the short-term rental thing is good, but that's self-imposed too. People own houses, they do it themselves. They couldn't do it on the road.
Right. So,
Well, why don't we draft a,
We think it's a good idea about the PVC regulations, it's an important.
go to add a condition.
Add condition to this. And,
How many phases of conditions as it relates to DVC can we put in
Well, what I
the approval?
What I
if
heard
we
was that,
approve?
you wanted, I heard that the sense of the board was that if you were going to approve this, you wanted a condition that, any future development of the lot would comply with any and all PUC requirements and guidance regarding, rattlesnake and bald eagle habitats, right?
Correct.
That's what, if, I mean, that's what I got out of it. If there's something else that I'm missing, tell me, and so I don't miss it, but that's what I heard.
No, that covered
That's
that.
right.
Excuse my ignorance. Okay. But yes, since you looked at me. I'm just wondering, isn't that something that people have to comply with anyway
Yeah.
when they build?
True.
I'm just asking, sorry.
That's,
Yeah,
that's,
you're not wrong, Crystal, but it's also sometimes not a bad idea to call someone's
Yeah,
attention
just
to
to
it,
add
because
to it.
somebody could,
It emphasizes it.
the presence of bald eagles and rattlesnakes, if you're from here, you know about it. You've been living it with it for decades,
Yeah.
right? Somebody buys a lot, and they just come into town, they probably wouldn't buy the lot, some of them, if they knew there was a rattlesnake population that close to them.
So does that condition follow the current owners or does that follow the
subsequent.
parcels?
It'll be with it'll run with the land. It'll be a condition that will apply to the development of the lot, whether this gentleman does it or he sells it as a vacant lot and somebody else goes. with it.
Sorry, this was like crystal learning 101.
And plus, it was a concern of some of the neighbors too. I mean, that was brought up at the
Mhm.
public hearing, so.
Fair question.
Yeah, no, it's legit.
Do it.
All right, so, can we form a consensus for, Ken to draft the resolution?
Since it's part of moving, or just make it,
Because, if we're going to approve this, if this is.
Yeah,
We need, if we're going to, whatever we do, we have to move to either approve or deny the application. And I'm getting a sense that most of the board wants to approve it. So it would make sense to draft our resolution in that respect.
So if that's the pleasure of the board, I'll do that. I mean, obviously, you're not gonna be able to, you're not gonna have it tonight. I'm gonna have to go back. After last month's meeting and then seeing that other submission, because I spoke to Neil and I wasn't gonna draw two resolutions. I mean, honestly, I can write a resolution to approve it. I can write a resolution to deny it and write supporting reasons for either, in either regard. And then some power greater than all of us will possibly decide whether we were right or wrong in either event. But I wasn't gonna sit there and write two resolutions. It just seemed like an incredible amount of time and energy spent for, and would be presumptive on, presumptuous, I think. I'm not substituting my personal use for what you guys want. You're the best.
We appreciate that.
So does that mean it would not be approved until next month?
Next, yeah, unless you want to hold a special meeting, but you got to give me a little bit of time to do the, to squeeze this in. I'm not gonna, couldn't do it within just the next couple of days.
At this stage of the game, Mr. Wiggers, is next month okay? To
Another
approve,
month?
yeah. Because he has to draft a resolution to get the
Draft the
word,
resolution for what?
to approve your project.
To approve,
Yes.
To approve to grant the variances you've requested.
Yeah.
So can I ask a
it
wild
takes
question?
you a
Can
month
you,
to make the.
can you grant, say that you're going to approve the variance based with the resolution that you're going to have, can you do kind of double?
I wouldn't do that. This is obviously a application that has generated some controversy.
Sure, right,
There are opponents to the application who have spent and invested resources and time in opposing. I think that's in the best interest of this board to have before it a resolution of it's evaluated and decide whether that accurately represents their decision. And candidly, I think, and incidentally, I'm not saying we're doing it for this reason, but the applicant's gonna benefit from that, because I'll tell you what, if you guys just wing this and say all in favor tonight without an appropriate resolution with findings, I can guarantee you that, that if I was on the other side of the thing as a lawyer, I'd have a heyday with that, with taking a run at that. It's gonna come right back to you, you're gonna, and you're gonna be told, now adopt the resolution with findings, so a court can understand what you did.
I think I agree with that.
In other words, what you're saying,
And I'd be saying the same thing if you guys were of the consensus of saying, we're of the mind not to approve it.
Let's stay there.
That observation, that advice would apply just as
Both ways.
Right, because you can go both ways.
it could, because it could, have to stop him from lawyering up.
is that normal practice?
Yeah.
Every variance that comes before you, and you have to, right, at the final, I mean, I've been here 5 months now, right? And after, it's a normal, make a resolution before you vote on it?
In every case, yes, but more so in this case.
If it's a normal procedure in every case, then it's
it's
fine,
best for
you know.
you.
I don't think there's anything-
It's no different than what we did with the variance, the use variance application that you were confronted with a few months back.
Right.
That you decided to deny, and we went back and took the time to do a detailed resolution with the appropriate recitals and findings, because you're supposed to do that
Right.
based on the record. that we have.
I mean,
Because the
if
purpose
that-
of
if
it
that's
is not
normal
for it to-
procedure, then.
To come, to get reversed later on.
It's another one.
Are you doing a special meeting or are you gonna do? it
No, we're gonna
No,
go
we'll
to
do it
next month.
next month.
My calendar to see where the town hall's open.
Yes, you it's open if it's not on a holiday.
The 24th is available, which is 2 weeks, just so you're aware, the 24th is in 2 weeks, that is available on a Monday. Otherwise, you're stuck with your 14th. It's really
14th, and that's not a holiday, right?
The 14th is not a holiday,
Right. Okay.
14th of December, that's not all.
November.
November.
That's a holiday.
Not
In
going
other
to
words,
December
you're going
yet.
to put it,
Take it easy.
in other words, you're going to put it in legal termination.
Yeah.
The president.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a fair way to put it.
Right.
Legal jargon.
It has to be done that way.
No, I
I'm not-
I didn't know. This is all new to me.
Okay,
I only went to planning board before. I never went to the variance.
well, you get a chance to do this again with the
No.
planning board.
So it's November 14th. right?
November
The
14th.
next meeting?
We don't have to make a motion to directly to do that resolution.
It's up to you. I mean, I think the board certainly reached a consensus. I understand what the board wants and.
And Mr. Wiggers, that'll give you, you'll still have a week before the planning board meeting. Just so you're
Pardon?
aware, because you're gonna have to go to planning after this,
I
correct?
had to go back to the planning board.
No.
Yes,
The planning, just so you're aware, so next month, the ZBA is on the 14th. The following Tuesday on the 22nd is planning board. So you'll be able to do
Uh,
ZBA and the following
okay.
week, hopefully planning board, and then possibly another month.
That's
depending on
provided
planning
that
board's-
this board
Yeah,
votes in favor. of it.
I would anticipate there's gonna be just as much
Yeah.
opposition presented to the
Yeah.
planning board as there was here. I don't think it's
Yeah.
gonna go away.
Hold on tight.
All right, so.
Do you want a motion to have Mr. Klein draft the
Yeah, it
resolution?
won't hurt. I'll make a motion to direct our attorney, Mr. Ken Klein, to draft a resolution in favor of approving this project. Anybody want to second that?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Okay, the motion carries. So with that, we'll table this matter till November 14th at 7:30 to approve that resolution. Make a motion to close the meeting. Anybody want a second?
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
I.
meeting's closed.